Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Today, Sandy and I are going to be talking about Webtime Entry and Time Correct. So glad that you could join us. We're excited to show these products. These are two products that we've been around for a little bit, over a year, and we want to make sure that everybody is aware of how they work and how they can make your life more efficient. I know the title was Enter Time from Anywhere, and that's where Webtime Entry comes into play. And then automatically correct in TimeTrack, and that's where our Time Correct module comes into play as well. And both of these are geared to the Key to Act service job cost area. So just want to make sure that those that have joined us have that as well. So, all right, yep, Sandy, you can go ahead and move to the next slide. And I'll talk through the slides and Sandy's gonna talk through the demo. So as we go through this, if you have questions or comments, feel free to put those in the GoToMeeting chat session or question session. You can type them in there and I got those open so I should see those. And again, you can do that while we're going through slides or going through the demo, and we'll try to get those answered here before we wrap up. All right, Sandy, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's hear about it.
Let's keep going. Okay, so Webtime Entry is the first one we're going to talk about. And really, it does allow you to enter and labor from anywhere. And what we mean by that is it's a web front end that allows you to enter in data against service, job cost, or unbilled time. And when you're recording it, it's feeding it back to TimeTrack. But it's through a web front end. So as soon as you put your data in and click submit, it leaves your web entry form and goes into the back office into your TimeTrack system. And so we're going to take a look at this today, but again, it gives you that flexibility, and you could use it just for job cost, just for service, or both. And again, you can also do unbilled time. And it's drop downs, as you can kind of see from the screenshot, so it's easy for people to make their selections and move on, because we get, whether you're doing this on a computer or doing it, let's say, on a phone, it's a little bit small. As you get better into a tablet, it looks a little bit better, because again, it is just a web UI that you're using. And Sandy's going to show that after I talk about the next product. So let's go into Time Correct. If you want to go to the next slide. And Time Correct is for those transactions that you've already committed through TimeTrack, and you've applied them onto your service call or onto your job, and then you find out later that somebody posted to the wrong service call, let's say, or wrong job, or they actually switched unions or something like that that you weren't aware of, and so you want to correct the transaction that you've already recorded. So what Time Correct allows you to do is go in and pull up that historical transaction that you've committed in TimeTrack inquiry. And then it gives you the ability to say, do I want to just reverse that transaction? And it'll automatically make a reversal entry for you. Or do you want to reverse and make a copy of it? And so when you're making a copy of those as well, then you could adjust it, right? So you got your reversal, and then you can put it into the correct service call or job, or go in and update, your union fields, benefits, those kind of information as well, and then do the process, commit those records and keep moving forward. So again, it allows you to make your corrections for transactions that you've already committed onto your TimeTrack service calls and jobs, but yet keep your data in TimeTrack up to date, as well as on, that service call or job that you need to correct as well. So very cool, and we're going to see that one in action here as well. So Sandy, I'll let you take it away from a demo process.
Okay, cool. Well, we will start first with Webtime Entry, and you're probably all familiar with the employee maintenance window. There's just a quick little setup here. The Webtime Entry users have to be set up as users in GP, and then if we click this internet addresses icon, the two fields we need to fill in that they'll use for logging in Webtime Entry are this login and password. And you see I have a really complex password there for Alan. So we'll log in a moment as Alan in Webtime Entry using those credentials. And then the one other piece of setup for Webtime Entry is a window in GP that lets you pick a few things. We let you have a few options for the batch name. It can be a custom batch name, which I have selected, and I put some zeros in front of it just so it's right at the top of my window when we look at it later. It can be the employee ID or the department. And then we can append the batch name with the week ending date or the transaction date if we want. And then we can dictate here what the Webtime Entry users see when they log in and start posting time. Are they going to see all the jobs and service calls to which they're assigned, which is what I have selected here, all of them that are open, or just ones that you've picked here from the lists of jobs and service calls? So you have those options available. And then if you do unbilled transactions, you can specify a general ledger account to use for those. So that's really all there is to the setup for Webtime Entry. So then we'll come in here now to the Webtime Entry, and I'm using Google. You can use Bing or and we just pick if we're going to do an individual entry or a crew entry, if you've done the crew setup in TimeTrack. And then I'll put in the password for Alan. So we'll start with an individual transaction. Did I hit login? Okay, and then we can do a transaction either for this week or last week. I'll leave it at this week, and then I'm going to just hit the new button. And then this screen is the one you saw in the screenshot in the slideshow. So here we can say if it's a job cost service or unbilled transaction, I'll do a job cost, and then we can say this is for today and pick the jobs. These are the jobs to which Alan is assigned. I'll say we're doing labor, chillers, and hourly, and then we can put in a description of whatever he was doing and how many hours. And then if this description field isn't long enough for you, there's a notes tab here, so you can put additional information there. And once you have the transaction how you want it, then you can click update. And if you do need to, right now it has not yet gone over to TimeTrack, and so we can edit it if we want to. Maybe it was only 3.5 hours. And then I can click update. And then once we're ready, we can submit it. And then we get a message here saying it was saved successfully. So now it's over in TimeTrack, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. But I wanted to show you first a few more things. We have this View History tab here, and we can see I have this one I just did for this week. I have these that I did last week, so we can view all of those here, which is really handy. And now let's go back to this tab, and I'm going to just hit the back button, and let's do a crew transaction because those are pretty slick.
And Sandy, I'm just jumping in before you
Sure.
do crew transaction. So one thing on the history that I want to point out is they could be transactions you've entered them yourself through Webtime Entry, or they could be ones that have entered by others through TimeTrack as well. So it's all data that's for that current week or prior week that exists in TimeTrack. So if you have supervisor data for you or administrative, you would still see all that. So just pointing that out.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so I'm going to put in our password again here as Alan. And then we see this crew name field. So Alan happens to be part of 2 crews. So I'll just pick one of those. And again, we have where we can enter time for this week or last week. And I'll say new. And over here, we have a crew tab now. And we can see all the members of that crew, crew 1. And we can, right now, they default as included, but if someone on the crew was missing for the day, for example, let's say Carol wasn't there, I can save that. And so now it's going to do time just for the remaining members of the crew. So we'll go back here to the card tab and let's do a service transaction this time. And we'll say it was for yesterday. I'll go pick one of these newer ones, leave that at labor. Again, I'll pick my hourly and we'll say something there, and maybe it's 5 hours. And then I'll click insert, and then again, you know, we didn't get a record for Carol because I'd unmarked her to not be included here. But we have the other two, and then we could edit either of those if we wanted. For example, maybe Bart got there late. So there, and then again, we can submit this to send it over to TimeTrack. So, excuse me, then let's jump back over to GP and look at the time card commit, and then we'll see that individual transaction for Alan and then the crew one we did as well. And so I think I left this open. So remember, I did a batch name starting with this, and then it has the transaction date after that. So we have this one was the individual one for Alan for today, and then this is the one for the crew. I'm going to mark this to commit it so we can see the details here and click commit, because we have a total of 9.5 hours because that was for 2 crew members. And here I'm going to say yes so we can see that and print it to screen. And so then we see that 5 hours we just did for Alan and 4.5 for Bart. So that is Webtime Entry. Any questions about Webtime Entry?
Yep, I'll bring up questions and a couple more things there. So making sure that the data does feed over to TimeTrack and it can be edited before it is committed if you need to into the entry window. And trying to look, I think we got all the other questions answered, but
okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Okay, so we can move on to time correct then, and then see if we have any additional questions. So as Cheryl mentioned, time correct is for if you've already committed the transactions and then find out you need to edit them. So we can then come here into under TimeTrack inquiry to history and then enter a batch, and I'll pick on Andy this time. So I've got 2 transactions here for Andy. And then if I want to edit one, I'm going to double click on it so it displays here for me. And then under the additional menu, we can select time correct this entry. And this is the window that was in Cheryl's time correct slide. As you can see, we have 2 options here. We can either do just a reverse on the transaction, which automatically records a labor transaction to reverse the hours and the cost amount, or we can do a reverse and create copy, which does that same thing. Plus, then it also automatically creates a record with the identical details to the original one so that you can make any necessary adjustments. So let's do that one. So again, here is the negative, you know, to back that one out, the original one, and then we've got this new one for 2.5 hours. And we can make any changes to that, whether it was put to the wrong service call. Let's see, maybe it should have been this one instead. If you need to change things like the cost code, or as Cheryl mentioned, the union information, Let's see if I have other unions here. Yeah, maybe it's this union instead. So you can make those types of changes here, and maybe even my time was wrong and it should have been 3 hours instead. So then once we have that where we want it, we can save it, and then we can go into the time card commit window, and that was my Sandy 2 batch. And then we can process that as normal. Let's see if we commit here.
Was that Sandy 2 or Sandy 1? I missed it
I
too.
think it was 2. Yeah, I think it was 2. Yeah, so here we can see, you know, we backed out that 2.5 hours and we did a new one for 3 hours, and we've got our updated service call. So yeah, that's how you correct it if it's already been committed using this time correct tool.
Excellent. Thanks, Sandy, for showing
Yeah,
those.
any other details to add about that one,
So
Cheryl, that I missed?
Yeah, one other thing I would just point out is the for the Webtime Entry, you don't need to be a user in signature. You can just be an employee and do the Webtime Entry outside of the signature product. We sell Webtime Entry with that flat rate, not by user like some of the other products. So just wanted to point that out along the way as well.
Yeah.
So. I think that's it for questions and extras at this point. Sandy,
Okay.
do you have anything else?
No, let's just jump to your last slide here, if I can get back to that. There we go. So here is how you can get in touch with us if you want to learn more about Webtime Entry or Time Correct. And we thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, and any other tool as well. I mean, we certainly would welcome the chance to demo them, talk through them, see how they could help your organization be more efficient. So just reach out to us and let us know. Thanks for joining today, everyone. Appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Bye.